The dangers and risks are real. At least 2 million computer systems have already fallen victim to viral infections of one kind or another. The government and business communities are admitting the realities of a potential epidemic. The Department of Commerce's National Institute of Standards and Technology warns the damage can vary widely and can be so extensive as to require the complete rebuilding of all system software and data. Because viruses can spread rapidly to other programs and systems, the damage can multiply geometrically.
From fraudulent refund claims, embezzlement, forged magnetic stripe tickets, erasing and substituting invoice numbers, adding and deleting clients' details, recording non-existing inventories, stealing clients' payroll funds, overpayment on supplemental income, wire fraud, illegally transferring funds, altering college-level grades, copying stolen credit cards, altering driving and credit history records. The list of computer security crimes is growing.
It's terribly important that individuals and organizations who rely on computers adopt comprehensive and coordinated programs to defend their computer systems against security breaches and virus infections. It is also important that they learn and understand the many remedies that are available in the event breaches of security and virus infections occur. Hi, I'm Rick, and welcome back to Silicon Training. We recommend you first view this program in its entirety, then go back and review specific parts. In this program, you will learn about 1. Antivirus prevention procedures and some off-the-shelf programs now available to prevent and combat viruses. 2. Trojan horses, logic bombs, worms, disk killer, Dark Avenger, the Jerusalem, Columbus Day, and now the famous Michelangelo virus and other known viruses. 3. Security measures, physical concerns about files, documentation, and virus protection. 4. Hardware and software controls. 5. Access control and your personnel. 6. Environmental concerns such as fire, water, ventilation, humidity, temperature, static electricity, and power.
Hello, I'm Heather. We won't cover disaster plans in detail. There are enough preventative and precautionary measures, as well as virus cures mentioned here to avoid a disaster. However, in the event you're experiencing trouble now, we're going to list approximately 10 steps to take if you think your computer system is infected. 1. Turn off your computer. The virus cannot get any worse while your computer is off. 2. Isolate all disks you have used in this work session. Notify anyone with the system you know may have been infected also. 3. Jot down a brief description of the symptoms that caused you to suspect a virus infection. The following list of questions may help formulate your thoughts.
Did loading programs take more time than usual? Did other disk accesses take more time than usual? Was there unusual screen activity? Any hardware malfunctions? Any files disappear? Any strange files appear? Any warning messages appear? What were they? Did drive lights activate for no reason? Which ones and when? Was memory space reduced? How much? Was there increases in program size? To what degree? Did the size of files change? Up or down?
4. List files and diskettes used recently. Any network accesses and different users on your system. 5. Call an expert, and here's why.
Have you checked for hardware problems or software glitches? Can you risk data loss while trying to eradicate the virus? Are good backups available? Do you have effective virus diagnosis programs at your disposal? Do you have sufficient computing expertise to take chances?
Step 6. Isolate your system from any networks, taking special care to disconnect correctly. 7. Place a write-protected original DOS system diskette into drive A. You will bypass the automatic loading of DOS from your hard disk, which may also be infected. 8. Turn your computer back on, boot up, and watch for any departures from normal responses. Any unusual activity could indicate an infection.
9. This step assumes you already have an antiviral program such as VirusScan by McAfee Associates. Let's look at the operation of this program in more detail. To run it, place the antivirus disk in one of your drives and type Scan C to start searching for virus activity on the C drive. If VirusScan finds a virus, the name and the infective file is displayed. Specific disinfection programs are covered later in this program. Or call our support line at 1-800-723-AMES for more assistance.
10. If the virus is a boot sector infection, first use the sys command. This command replaces the infected DOS file on your hard drive with the sterile replacement found on the uncontaminated disk in drive A. At the A prompt, type SYSC, and the correct computer response should be system transferred. If the syst command fails to clear an infection, then immediately back up all files and reformat the hard disk. This will ensure that the hard disk is clean of all infection and ready for partitioning and reloading. You will still need to check disk and files to locate and eliminate the virus.
Another really easy virus elimination method is included with MS-DOS 5.0 or later versions. The command is fdisk/mbr, and it removes most boot sector viruses. Now, before we cover the very important issues of preventive medicine, let's take some questions.
What is a computer virus?
A virus is a man-made computer program that has the ability to replicate itself. Some are damaging and some are not. However, the creator's internal motives are usually not positive. Viruses are created as practical jokes, pranks, and even to spread political views, none of which belong in a business or school computer system. Also, viruses are created through responsible research and sometimes escape accidentally. Innocent viruses do damage by replicating so many times so fast they clog systems.
Do we have an epidemic here?
Well, computer viruses can replicate several times in less than a second. Bulletin boards and networking are becoming more popular along with shareware. These are obvious ways viruses can spread rapidly. Viruses are being developed that can mutate just as some insects do. They will change and adapt to different operating systems or even attack the antivirus programs designed to eliminate them.
What else can viruses do?
Well, some are amusing. However, in the worst cases, viruses can kill. Medical records, air traffic control systems, and other safety-critical systems rely on safe computers. There is a virus targeted at word processing programs that adds obscenities to the names of political leaders. During a mail merge, the obscenity is added when possible discovery is minimized until it's too late. Mass mailings are now such a routine that adding a phrase to every 100th letter sent would very likely go unnoticed. A disgruntled employee might think of some very damaging expletives to add. Viruses can also be used to steal data. A hacker could break into a corporate computer system and create a file that gathers sensitive data and transfers it to another site via modem. It is very simple to program a virus to execute a DOS command at a very inappropriate time. For example, you are saving a document in a word processing program, and the virus tells DOS to format, destroying all the data on the disk to which you intended to save your work. Now that could be a disaster. A virus can also be a very effective communications tool. We have only just started to see viruses used for propaganda of various kinds, such as the New Zealand virus's screen display that says, "Legalize marijuana." Your computer is now stoned.
Can a virus damage hardware?
In reality, it is virtually impossible for software to damage hardware without the user being aware that something is wrong long before the damage occurs. However, some types of monitors may be damaged by a virus sending a bright signal to one location on the screen. It is also conceivable a virus could be written to generate intensive read-write activity that would speed up hard drive failure. Of course, viruses could cause physical damage from computers that control robotics, machinery, manufacture foods, and pharmaceuticals.
Is it dangerous to use electronic mail?
Only if the data that is transmitted back and forth permits executable files to be transmitted.
What is the most common type of DOS virus?
Well, boot sector infections and file infections that search out COM or EXE files are the most common. They are widely used and may make it easier to hide viruses within the system.
How can a virus prevent me from accessing my data, even if it is not destroyed?
DOS organizes your files in two ways: logical ordering and FAT. Now, both of these systems can be infected. In the former, viruses have a party running around directories and subdirectories, making files inaccessible by making them appear to have been destroyed. The message "file not found" could mean more than the usual. The second system, FAT, is affected when a virus reorganizes things destructively. The same effect is found when utilities that affect FAT are incorrectly utilized.
Why can bulletin boards spread viruses so rapidly?
There are over 35,000 bulletin boards in the United States alone, and that number is growing daily. Businesses are using bulletin boards to communicate with staff away from the home office. Bulletin boards allow communication and exchange of data between computers. Therefore, they may be more susceptible to virus infection than an isolated machine. Be cautious about the bulletin board service you utilize. You might even inquire about their virus prevention programs, if any.
Why isn't there a universal vaccine to stop all viruses?
From the previous information in this program, you can see there are many different viruses that act differently. A universal vaccine would have to be so powerful, it would probably damage other parts of your system as well. You need to have an antiviral program that you can update regularly to keep up with newly discovered infections, or utilize one of the other remedies mentioned in this program.
Why are humorous viruses still so dangerous?
Viruses are software programs, and all software programs contain bugs at one time or another. Even legitimate software companies release new versions with bugs. Consequently, the hacker in his garage likely introduces bugs into his virus. A bug in the Jerusalem virus caused it to duplicate out of control and reinfect files already infected. A bug in the worm program that Robert Morris Jr. released into the internet network effectively removed the brakes that Morris had installed to stop the program from doing extensive damage. It disabled over 6,000 computers across the United States, with damage estimated at over $100 million. Morris was subsequently tried and convicted for the computer crime.
Is there any completely secure way to preserve priceless data?
Yes, go back to conventional paper. Extend your backup process to include hard copies of the data you want to preserve forever.
Regarding fire hazards, ask yourself the following questions, and if necessary, call your local fire department for advice. Is your computer housed in a fire-resistant building or office? What is the position of the data center relative to sources of ignition, such as cafeterias, power cabling, chemicals, fumes, odors, etc.? Are all electrical connections properly grounded? Are you using power line conditioners, power controllers, uninterruptible power sources, or even spike protectors?
Well, you should be. Clean power cannot be guaranteed. On the contrary, you can count on dirty power.
What about an extended power outage? Are your computer cables secure and away from electrical extreme heat and cold? Are your backup tapes, disk, or CD-ROMs stored safely and off-site? Do you have additional copies at another site? What about access control codes and data relative to administration? Do you have a computer floor, and is it clean underneath? Is the number of disk, tapes, or CD-ROMs outside the library kept to a minimum, except for off-site storage? Regarding water hazards, ask yourself these questions. What is above my system? Steam, water pipes, water beds? or any water source. Is there any way a leak or water accident could reach your hardware or stored disk, tapes, or CD-ROMs? Is your air conditioning system adequate? Heating system? Have you overloaded outlets or circuits? How many power strips on each system? If you use a badge system for access control, how do you know the badge belongs to the right person? Do you have a visitor control procedure? Is it adequate? Is it possible to access your system externally, such as modems or remote systems?
Safeguard these systems with software and hardware controls mentioned later in this program. For better demonstration, let's look at some simulated viruses to see what the effects would be on your computer. The first one we'll look at is the Fu Manchu virus. The virus interrupts the transmission of data from the keyboard to the computer for processing and inputs four-letter words when it recognizes the following words: Reagan, Thatcher, and Botha. The expletives come up automatically and could be dangerous if activated during a mail merge when human intervention is minimal, allowing the expletives to go out in a mailing. Another virus is the Italian bouncing ball. The virus grabs a single character and makes it into a bouncing ball which conflicts with the cursor and is otherwise annoying. Another one is the Orapax musical virus. It was introduced in the United States during 1990 and is strictly sound effects. When the virus is activated, it has built-in delays at 5-minute intervals and plays familiar Mozart themes. Just listen. The next virus is a real mess. It's called Cascade. One column on the screen is affected when the virus is activated. It grabs characters and cascades or drops them down a few lines. This could really mess up word processing and spreadsheet operations. One of the worst viruses is the disk killer. It is a boot sector virus which emerged in late 1989. When activated, it displays Disk Killer version 1.0 from Ogra Computers, now killing disk. Please do not power down your system. Powering down immediately after the warning is of no use, since the virus formatted your hard disk 10 seconds before. This virus has infected one leading software manufacturer, resulting in a nationwide recall. The moral is, all new software entering your system should be checked for infection. Another virus that is potentially devastating is the Zero bug from Europe. It is another COM infector that destroys data quickly and is devastating because it utilizes a new method. It hides in application programs but remains undetected by changing the program's new identification details back to the manufacturer's standard. Consequently, many of the antiviruses are useless with this one. The Alabama virus is a COM and exe file infector and also utilizes a new method. When any files are copied or otherwise activated, Alabama renames them with the name of another existing file on the victim's system. Ultimately, all the data files are scrambled and inaccessible because the user doesn't know the new names. It functions similar to the DOS recover command, but out of control. Earlier, we mentioned the Jerusalem virus, and it deserves more attention. There are many versions of this virus, and it is by far the most widespread. The Sunday Jerusalem virus activates on dates, usually Sundays, and garbles your FAT files. It is theorized by many virus creators that the ultimate virus will have a bomb set to go off in the future, after the infection is spread everywhere. Another version of the Jerusalem is the Century, set to go off January 1 of the year 2000. The Century scrambles your FAT and writes zeros to every sector on every disk. And then the words, "Welcome to the 21st century" appear. Let's move on to preventive medicine, since utilizing this information will discourage contamination, and hopefully you'll never need the steps we just covered. There are many virus scanning, detection, and elimination programs on the market. We have used just one here. In any case, you should have one or two of these, at least a detection program, in your library of software. You can evaluate your system regularly without the cost of expert help and determine the next step to take if your system is infected. Remember, Virus protection should happen before the negative side effects of infection are noticed. Create user awareness. The more people understand about viruses, the more likely they will use proper hygiene with your system and avoid infection. Notify your employees and anyone else using your computer systems. Every executable program that is run on a computer should be treated with suspicion, including free demo disks, shareware, public domain, and bulletin boards. Do background checks on new employees and monitor their attitudes on a regular basis.
Use physical safeguards to protect your system. The first area to concentrate on is people, since they may expose your system to infections, either deliberately or by accident. Most viruses spread from people you know and trust, trading disk back and forth. Restrict access to your system. Only key employees and targeted subordinates should have access to the most critical data, such as your main database. Remember that all employees who have access to a sensitive system can also sabotage that system, especially when disputes or firings arise. And without restricted accesses, the damage may be done long before you have time to take precautionary measures. Restricting access can be as simple as locking the computer in your office. If this is not practical, there are software programs that prevent unauthorized use without proper entry codes and hardware systems that prevent the system from being turned on. Allowing unrestricted access to your computer system only increases the risk of virus infection. From your laptop at home that your children used to play with, the virus can be transferred from schools to businesses and ultimately other businesses or even major corporations. We know that severely restricting access to your sensitive computer system may not be practical, but there are times when access to your computer is silly and counterproductive, such as lunchtime game playing. These games are typically passed unauthorized from one user to another and can easily pick up a virus. Keeping a log of computer activities lets employees know the seriousness of computer security and may enlighten their awareness. But it does not prevent unauthorized access. However, a simple log could be valuable in the event of an infection. There are many simple DOS batch files that create automatic logging on and logging off procedures, and also record activity with application programs. Some of the simple batch files can be found on PC magazines, PC Magnet Bulletin Board, and other BBSs.
Use an offline PC that is an isolated PC, where you can test programs without fear of contaminating your entire system. Use an XT, AT, or older model, even a used one for this purpose. They're cheap now. Recognizing containment and elimination of viruses are concurrent. The two major categories of virus identification are parasitic and boot sector. This is where your utilities programs help. A lot of antiviral software is simply no good, and some are downright dangerous. Software authors everywhere are taking advantage of the virus publicity wave by producing antivirus programs without proper testing and false claims by the manufacturers. Special care and attention needs to be utilized when choosing antiviral programs. Look for good quality, up-to-date software. Earlier in this program, we used VirusScan because it has been independently tested under a wide range of conditions. The results were good, and it can be updated easily. There are 3 basic types of antiviral products available.
1. Prevention software. 2. Detection software. And 3. Identification software. We'll take a brief look at each type. Prevention software is like an intruder alert. It either prevents unusual activity or warns you so an intelligent evaluation can be made before any breach or infection occurs. They have generic abilities which detect typical virus activity and try to stop the invasion. They also have specific abilities such as early warnings about running unauthorized programs. Though these are very effective, they may not detect viruses hiding in authorized programs, and the frequent false alarms might lead you to a lackadaisical attitude. Detection software is simply that, detecting security breaches and virus infections. They usually monitor your system and look for generic virus activity or unusual functions or operating methods. As more complex viruses are developed and disguised within legitimate applications, the usefulness of both prevention and detection software will be greatly reduced. Identification software starts after a virus infection or security breach occurs. They compare the virus symptoms to known viruses and initiate a repair. This type can also become quickly outdated, and the useful shelf life is reduced. Some software companies are using the terms vaccination software. These programs are usually of a detection nature, and frequent false alarms are probable.
At this time, we'll give you a sampling and brief description of some of the other antiviral software packages available at most software dealers. We do not warranty any of them. We just want you to know what is available.
Antidote from Quaid Software of Toronto is a $60 software utility that detects viruses. Vaccinate from Softco Incorporated of Boulder, Colorado is actually a virus itself. This $195 program infects executable files. Consequently, the files cannot be infected by another virus without warning the user in advance. Dr. Panda Utilities from Panda Systems of Wilmington, Delaware, quarantines and tests software downloaded from public bulletin boards prior to loading in your system. The $79 utility checks system files, reads hidden ASCII strings, and intercepts disk operation calls. Silene 4 from Interpath Corporations from Santa Clara, California, has developed an antiviral shield that monitors your system activity. If it detects a virus, it freezes the program and notifies the user. VirusSafe from Xtree is a $150 program that monitors the computer's memory to detect whether a virus is present. This program then prevents any viruses from entering the computer and infecting other programs. Passcode from Security Dynamics Incorporated of Cambridge, Massachusetts, has developed a hardware and software security scheme that prevents and captures viruses residing in PCs. Veer Alarm from Lasertree Incorporated of Metuchen, New Jersey, claims CD-ROM, compact read-only memory, is a fail-safe way to prevent virus spreading. It checks programs for infection before they can be executed and then stores on a read-only CD-ROM, safe from any alteration. Virus Implant Protector from Hayward, California, identifies unauthorized activity on a host computer. The system uses a dedicated IBM AT that talks to mainframes and micros through serial port.
Computer technology moves so fast, it is advisable to check with software dealers to see what's new in virus protection. For the future, developments in computer architecture will create environments where these self-replicating programs cannot exist. One such hardware development is
Disk Defender by Dennis Director. It is a hardware circuit that creates a barrier to keep viruses out of a portion of your hard disk. It is like a Write Protect tab for your hard drive. Operating system and program application, as well as data files, are stored behind the barrier in a read-only capacity. The rest of your hard drive can still be written to and changed. Safe by Micronix Incorporated is designed especially for the Windows Graphical User Interface (GUI) environment. It prevents viruses from corrupting essential files on a PC. It also produces an audit trail logging file accesses performed by the user. Access to the microcomputer's hard drive is denied if the user is not authorized to log on. DOS cannot be accessed either. Access can be fine-tuned to particular files, and the program can create a log of accesses automatically on micros, IBM, AS400s, or VM host. Viruside Plus from Parsons Technology at 1-800-223-6925 contains a memory resident shield program that gives the user a warning prior to infection and also removes any known viruses. At $69, we think it is the best value.
Back to more preventative medicine techniques. Backups are the ultimate protection against virus infection and security breaches. Use regular and sound backups. There are many backup programs available, such as Norton and PC Tools. But DOS can do a backup on a regular basis, backing up only those files altered since the last backup, yesterday or the day before if you're maintaining your system correctly. Your backup medium, disks, or tape should be stored off-site, away from your system. This will maintain positive safety and verification. Check your system for viruses before restoring your backups, which should be done occasionally to make sure your backup is a good one. Since viruses may spread to backup copies, make several generations of backups so when an infection occurs, you can go back to a clean backup. Of course, the best and safest backup is still hard copy. If you have sensitive documents, spreadsheets, databases, or unformatted ASCII files, make a hard copy and store it off-site. Hard disks are susceptible to electronic failure, and single floppies are not totally secure either. You need duplicate copies in reserve, preferably two. However you establish your backup procedures, keep in mind they must be practical. Backups are only effective if done regularly. The safest backup medium is tape. These systems are now easy to use, easier than floppies, and because the data is stored linearly, random access to it is difficult. However, this disadvantage can actually limit the spread of viruses.
All of your disks should be kept write protected unless writing to them, and guard your disk religiously. They are the most common source of virus infection. You can write protect your COM and EXE files of your hard disk so that they become read-only. Check with your DOS manual or use one of the many utilities programs available which may make it easier. Be aware that this procedure is not 100% effective. Never lend any of your disks to someone else. If you have to, make a copy and format the copy when it is returned. Obviously, you should never let others use their program disks in your system, especially pirated copies. Pirated copies are usually several generations down, and how many systems have they been on, and where? These security and virus protection measures may seem complicated and time-consuming, but most of them are simple, common-sense approaches that once initiated can give you peace of mind and a secure system in an otherwise unsecure environment.
As mentioned earlier, bulletin boards are another possible source of security breaches and virus infections. Most bulletin boards are clean, but there are no guarantees that they all are. Therefore, we'll go into more detail about protection while using the many BBSs available. Bulletin boards are designed to act as communications media for the exchange of data. Therefore, their very existence increases the possibility of virus infection spreading. They are fantastic resources, however, so take a few precautions and go ahead and use them. Do not download programs from BBSs and stay away from the ones that disseminate pirated software. If you lay down with dogs, you'll get up with fleas. How can you assume the operators of unethical BBSs do any virus protection whatsoever? You can't. So it's advisable to stay away. If you want to look at all the BBSs, even the reputable ones, you might consider using an isolated PC as mentioned earlier. That way, you don't infect your main system with any problems. If you download a program from any BBS, copy it to a floppy, and then delete that file from your hard disk. Scan the file for problems, and if there are any, discard the disk. Your valuable data is worth far more than a few blank disks. Don't hesitate to throw questionable diskettes away. You get what you pay for is still reliable, so when you see unbelievable deals from small authors unknown programs promising big, powerful results, be cautious. Just be cautious, though, and use our recommended preventive medicine, as there are some good deals out there. Let's briefly review some of the precautions for safe computing.
1. Never load foreign disks in your system or allow anyone else to do so unless you are certain the disks are virus-free. Use utilities programs. 2. Do not allow your disks to be used in another system unless the right protect tabs are secured. 3. Do not accept foreign programs unless you are absolutely certain that they are virus-free, and keep all your program disks separate from your data. 4. Be cautious of computer rental and desktop publishing centers. They cannot control virus exposure. However, you might ask what their antivirus precautions are. 5. If you must use disks or programs from strange systems, use caution. Test them out first on an isolated machine with no hard drive or network connection to your main system. 6. Evaluate bulletin board systems, antivirus procedures, and only deal with a reputable company. 7. Supervise all persons using your computer system and ensure that they are following your guidelines for a sterile environment. 8. Watch for unexplained changes in the way your system functions, such as drive lights on for no reason and increases in program size. 9. Use Write Protect tabs always and create volume labels to record the size of your programs. 10. And the golden rule. Use a sound backup system regularly. Separate your data from your program disks.
For the future, virus developers will continue to become more sophisticated and more effective in their ability to distribute and infect in wide proportions. Programs like the Dark Avenger, which attack the antivirus programs themselves, and ZeroBug, which outwits antiviral detection programs, will become more numerous. The good news is that a number of hackers will be stimulated to invent ways to defeat viruses similar to when they joined forces to eradicate the internet worm. More and more popular brands of commercial software will become the victims of viruses and require nationwide recalls as the number of competitors, disgruntled employees, and other sophisticated hackers become more numerous. Legislation and new laws more powerful than the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act of 1986 and the Computer Virus Eradication Act of 1989 will emerge as everyone worldwide tries to protect their environments from computer sabotage. CD-ROM media formats will increase as their inherent read-only virus protection becomes more popular. Statistically, major infections in corporate systems in the manufacturing, service, and banking industries will occur. Unfortunately, it will take several widespread virus infections among large corporations before proper measures are taken to eliminate the risks. Public perception and attitudes will change. The New York Times has reported, now computers are being talked about as though they were organisms subject to disease. This attitude shift throws certain issues into sharp relief. How much can we depend on our information processing systems? How free do we want the flow of information to be? Most important, computer viruses force us to confront the possibility that we are making systems that may ultimately defy our ability to control them. Organizations and government agencies will continue to lie about the actual infections and risks of mass infections, similar to pollution and other negative issues for fear of adverse publicity. We may need laws to force reporting of infections, just as we have laws to force reporting of pollution incidents, at least to attain some level of accountability. For example, many bankers may recall the $5 million just in interest the Bank of New York had to pay on $24 billion it borrowed to cover accounts affected by a software bug. This incident received very little publicity. The very existence of shareware, public domain software, and bulletin boards will be threatened by more viruses. On the contrary, these affordable systems may prove to be the method antiviral programs are mass distributed to fight the viruses. Networks will also be another area of concern. Networking, having the largest growth potential, will need greater attention to all aspects of security, which may restrict some of the benefits to be gained from networking. Politically speaking, viruses are an effective mass media source to spread special interest opinion, propaganda, protests, and the like. Unfortunately, these viruses can be life-threatening. NASA's computers were infected by a virus or a worm from protesters against space shuttles carrying nuclear cargoes. There are several neo-Nazi computer games tied to viruses circulating internationally. One digitally recreates the voice of Joseph Goebbels, the famous Nazi propaganda minister.
PC Computing reported plans to install neo-Nazi individuals in key military positions so that they can eventually seize power through the use of technology and the power of information. All of this nonsense will erode our trust and make our information systems suspect, which cannot help scientific, medical, and engineering research, the positive side of accessible information systems. In March 1990, Harper's Magazine published the results in an electronic bulletin board forum on the issue of "Is Computer Hacking a Crime?", in which viruses were a hot topic. John Perry Barlow, retired cattle rancher and lyricist for the Grateful Dead, made this contribution to the debate, which exemplifies the social and political significance of the virus issue.
Sadly, the United States and Europe are fantastic breeding grounds for the hackers to exist and develop more potentially damaging complex viruses with no known antidote. We will continue to investigate and keep you informed of emerging antivirus techniques and computer security measures you can take to make your computing safe and unmolested.
Thanks for watching. Look for more cutting-edge programs from Silicon Mountain Training.
For more information on this program or other programs in our Windows or DOS training series, please contact us by writing to our address or simply call 1-800-723-AIMS. That's 1-800-723-2637.